A little bit about myself. Most of you know me, but a few don't. Grew up right here in Johnson County, born on a farm, hard-working family. Have a long line of ancestors who worked hard, worked outside, were very smart, were very hard-working. It's also privileged to have a mother who was into stock market investing before the home computers was even a thing. Something where you had to look at the newspaper to figure out what the stocks were valued at. So growing up, not only did we talk about working, we talked about money and money management at a very young age. And this was something that was commonplace. And as I grew older, I thought everybody done that. But I've come to find out that's not the case. And a lot of people just simply have not been given the knowledge how to manage money. And I feel like no offense to our educators in here, but our education system is not taught that. Something that high schools should know how to do. So we're going to start right with our title, Financial Freedom. And the more you interact, the more lively this class will be. What does financial freedom mean to you?
Not a debt.
No debt.
No student loan.
No student loans. Love it. Anybody else?
Paycheck to paycheck. Not living paycheck.
Not living paycheck to paycheck. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. So I'm going to have to use the term that we'll learn a little bit later, but financially free to me means that when you have passive investments that meet or exceed your cost of living. So if you can live for approximately $4,000 a month, but you have income from things that you don't have to actively engage in, say it's stocks, say it's rental houses. If they provide you enough money that meets or exceeds that $4,000, then technically you don't have to go to work. Does that make sense? That's what it means to me. We're going to start out with a scripture that means a whole lot to me. It can be taught in a lot of different ways, but we're going to hit it kind of lightly as our starting verse. This comes from Matthew 25. Again, it was like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his wealth to them. To one he gave 5 bags of gold, to other 2 bags, and to another 1 bag, each according to his ability. Then he went on his journey. The man who had received 5 bags of gold went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 bags more. So also the one with 2 bags of gold gained 2 more. But the one with 1 bag went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. The man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I have gained 5 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. The man with 2 bags of gold came, Master, you have entrusted me with 2 bags of gold. See, I have gained 2 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. Then the man who received 1 bag of gold came. Master, he said, I knew that you were a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid and went out and hid your gold in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you. His master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. So that you knew that I harvested where I had not sown and gathered where I had not scattered seed. Well then, you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers, so that when I returned, I would have received it back with interest. So take the bag of gold from him and give it to the one who has 10 bags. Whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. And whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. And throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. You take this scripture, there's a lot of different avenues you can go with this. But the first point I want to bring out is the person that received 2 bags didn't badmouth the person that had 5 bags. Well, why did he get 5 bags? I only got 2. Or the one who got 1 said, well, they got 2 and 5, why didn't I get more? Life is not fair. Some people are born into wealthy families, some people are not. You can't change where you started from, but you can change where you end up. And that's on you. I also like the scripture because it's probably one of the first ones that I've seen that has a hint of there was banking and interest way back when, which I thought was amazing. Because he says at least you could have took the 1 bag of gold and put it with the bankers and earned the interest. So there was some type of banking system way back when that you could have put money in the bank and draw interest, which I thought was simply amazing. When you start talking about saving money and how to go about it, it's very, very similar to another hard area of life, and that's weight loss. If you're trying to lose weight, it all comes down to this simple little equation. In minus out equals stored. Calories in minus calories out equals calories stored or fat. Right? Okay? If you want to lose weight, what's one of the first things you want to try to do?
Burn more calories than you take
You'll
in.
burn more calories. So if you burn more calories, you increase the out, you reduce the store. What's the next thing you're going to do?
Exercise.
You're going to exercise. We reduce the in, we increase the out. We're going to speed this process up, correct? Okay? The plan's good until a sweet treat crosses your nose. Right? For some. Saving money is the same way. In minus out equals amount stored. To increase your in, what have you got to do? Get another job? Work overtime? That's your pretty 2 basic options. How about our out? What is our out?
Eat out less.
Eat out less. That's a good example. Okay? What else?
Unsubscribe no more.
Unsubscribe. DirecTV, Netflix. Money management boils down to one very simple process. Needs versus wants. Right? What do we need? What do we need in life? Shelter? Food? Clothes?
I just said we gotta have food, just don't.
Got food.
Don't spend too much money to.
And transportation. That's our basic needs in life, right? Anything above those basic needs is a want. That is the hardest thing. And there's books after book after book about how we trick ourselves into thinking that what we want is a need. Now, I've literally read a stack of books, taller than that. There's a lot of fluff in them, but I'm gonna try to boil it all down to a few basic points of how all this stuff works. All right, excuse me one moment. If this is a simple bucket representing your bank account, what are we missing? An out. Is that what most of the people look like?
As they take some out and put some back in.
About more outs.
That's probably why.
To keep more, we got to reduce the outs. There's only so much you can do in a short amount of time to increase the in. You can work overtime, you can get a second job, but there's only so many hours in the day. Fair enough? Anybody heard of Dave Ramsey? So, very, very smart gentleman. He went through a tragic time in his life. Lines of credit maxed out, credit cards maxed out. On paper, he looked like a millionaire because of the real estate he owned. But his bank account showed different. And he hit rock bottom, and through that process, he created what we're going to learn about. And he's helped literally thousands of people how to manage their money. And I've included several of his quotes and some other ones along the way. It says, live like no one else so that later you can live and give like no one else. I want to make a little side note that we're not here to study how to hoard as much money as we possibly can for ourselves. I would like to see all of you grow financially, and you can give to the church as a whole, not just our church, but church as a whole, whether it's in missions, whether it's through other agencies. It's not about collecting as much for yourself. You get enough for yourself, but you can help others along the way. Second one is personal finance is more personal than finance. What works for me and Shelley doesn't work for Tony, Faith, and Joseph, or Marshall and Ellen, or Brooke, or Travis. We're all different. We all got different situations. There's some main principles at play, but it's more about your situation and what you can do and what you can't do. I'm going to kind of go through these quickly. Most of you that I've talked to and invited here, when we talked, I didn't get the sense that you were drowning in debt. And when I say drowning in debt, I'm talking about you're drowning in debt. Credit cards maxed out, lines of credit, the whole 9 yards. But I do want to ask you this, and you can answer to yourself. this is a couple of key things that we're going to go over. Can you put your hands on $1,000 right now? And if you can do that, have you got enough money in the bank that you could live for 6 months without any income? If your income stopped, if you were fired and your spouse was fired tomorrow, could you live and survive for 6 months with no income? If you can't, that's why we're going to go through these steps. Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps. Create a family budget. And I've got one of those included in the back, and we'll get to that in a second. And he says, tell your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. If you run out of money before you run out of month, you're wondering where your money went. Now think about that. How many times have you been at the end of your month and you're like, well, I had a whole big paycheck somewhere along the way and I don't know where it's all gone? That's where your budget comes into play. Baby step 1, save $1,000 and store it safely. Safe deposit box at the bank, most are free. Small safe at home. Baby step 2, pay off all debts beginning with the one in the smallest balance. 3, create an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months living expenses. 3 is cutting it close, 6 is better. Invest 15% of take-home pay. Pay off house debt. And lastly but not least, build wealth and give. The bottom page I wholeheartedly agree with Ramsey's baby steps except 2 things. His opinion on investing in mutual funds and all debt is bad. Now, I agree with most consumer debt, and we'll differentiate between those later. But in his mindset, all debt is bad. I don't completely agree with that. So if you'll flip back a couple of pages, you should see something that looks like a monthly cash flow plan. And that right there is about as simple 2 pages to create a budget as could be. We won't go by it step by step. Giving in his block that says giving, you're going to give roughly at the bottom it says 10 to 15%. Savings 10 to 15%, and housing 25 to 30%. I've talked to some that was looking at buying a house, or some that are looking at building a house. So when you spend your housing, it should be between 25 and 30% of your take-home pay. Food, 5 to 15%. Well, I know we blow that out of the water. Transportation, personal, and the list goes on and on. Take that, make copies, set yourself up a budget. You'll likely mess up when you try to make a budget. Your first couple of months is going to be a royal mess, I can guarantee you. If money management is a problem, when you get a paycheck, you go to the bank, you cash it, and you go home and you take envelopes and you literally write, this is for gas, this is for entertainment, this is for housing, this is for food, this is for eating out, according to that budget that you just saw. When you cash that check, you put the correct percentages in each envelope. And when your entertainment budget envelope is empty, you're done with entertainment till the next paycheck. Does that make sense? If you can't manage money, you're not going to be able to save it. And if you can't save it, you're not going to be able to invest it. Case in point is the people who win lotteries. If you can't manage $20,000 a year, you can't manage $24 million. It's that simple. Take drastic measures if you have to. Ramsey's classes and videos is full of people taking their credit cards and cutting them with chainsaws and skill saws because they knew that the credit cards was what's killing them. They're convenient. They're easy. And they give you that false sense that I've got the money because I made it out of the store with whatever I wanted. So you felt like you paid it until the bill comes. The other thing that really irks me is when you're in a group of people and you know you can't afford to go out to eat, but you go anyway because the crowd wants to go. Or they entice you to spend money that you don't have to spend. They're not going to be around to pay the bills for you. Learn not to worry about what other people think. It's your future. Now, I don't think anybody in here has heard this. There was one or two that I thought may have showed up. Job. What's it stand for? If you know right off the hand, don't say it. Job as an acronym, what does it stand for? Anybody? Just over broke.
Was my Wheel of Fortune coming out?
I'm
I said, is he right, Jones? I said, just over broke. So was my Wheel of Fortune coming out?
I'm not knocking jobs by no means. I've got one. The world economy revolves on jobs. But for most people, a job is just this. For those of you that's been around long enough to have switched jobs or got pay raises or got promoted, think about what you've done with that promotion. Did you bankroll it and save it? Or did we increase our standard of living just a touch because we got a pay raise? Most Americans, and I've read hundreds of reports, but reports vary, but roughly 60% of Americans can't pay for a $1,000 expense, unexpected expense. Now think about that. 60% of Americans can't pay for a $1,000 unexpected expense. You get a pay raise, now you can go out and eat more. Now you can afford a little bit better car. Now we can upgrade neighborhoods. And you start out at $50,000 a year living here. And you get promotions, and you get promotions, you get promotions, and you might be making $80,000. But your bank account doesn't show it because every time you got a promotion, you upgraded your lifestyle. Compounding interest. If you learn nothing else out of this class, you need to understand compounding interest. Warren Buffett says someone sits under a tree today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. Albert Einstein says it's the eighth wonder of the world. Those who understand it, earn it. That's a fill in the blank for you. And those who don't, pay it. So what is compounding interest?
You know, it's the principal times 1 plus the rate divided by that. Is the rate that you accrue in interest every month that it stays in the account untouched?
Okay.
Starting with the principal.
All right. So let's start with interest. If Travis comes to me and says, hey, I need to borrow $100, I'll pay you back next week. Okay? I can do that. But Travis, you're going to pay me 10% interest. So next week you're going to owe me 110. Now, why am I going to charge him interest?
You're making your money work for you.
I can make my money work for me. But when I loan him that $100, have I got that $100 to use at my own discretion?
Future value of money.
Future value money? Absolutely. If I can't use the money personally, I want to earn something while it's away from me. All right, let's do it very simply. Yearly. If you put $100 in the bank account, now you're not going to earn 10%, but let's just say you do, for math's sake. For 1 year, it sits in the bank. You add nothing to it. What is the value at the end of the first year?
10,000. 10,000. Be $1,000.
Is it $10 a month or $10 a year?
You start with $100 in the bank account. You add nothing to it for the whole year, and that earns 10%.
So your 10% is compounding every year.
Yes.
Okay, so $110.
So the first year, it's worth 110. You earn $10 on your $100, right? What happens second year?
You earn 10% on 110. You earn,
$121.
yeah.
Second year is what?
$121.
121. Because you earned $11 the second year. You're earning interest on the interest you've already earned. Does that make sense? What's year 3 look like?
132.
10 cents.
132.10.
132.10.
So I lost 10 cents, right? First charge. That's why I'm worried about it.
132.10. Everybody getting this? This makes sense. Because if we don't get this, there's no need to move forward. Because everything we're going to do is going to build on top of this. You're earning interest on the interest that you earned. Compounding interest. If you understand it, you earn it. If you don't, you're going to pay it. Go to your back page after the budget forms. You have the first sheet. It says 8th wonder of the world compounding interest. $1 invested at 10% interest. So, in this example, you take $1 and you put it in a bank account and you let it sit for 50 years. Now, I'm a math guy. I love to play with numbers. But this is an example to try to get you to understand a couple of principles here. It's earning 10%. Now, this is going to be compounded monthly. At the end of year one, you're at $1.10. In the year two, you're at 121. In the year three, 135. In year four, well, this is kind of boring. Until you get down to year 7. You know, wait a minute, we've doubled. We didn't add nothing to it. Now, this is the original $1, and it took 7 years, and it doubled. 10 years, we're at 271. 20 years, we're at 733. $1 left alone is now worth $7.33 in 20 years. Skip on down to 30. It's at 1984 for $1. $40 years is at $53.70. And at 50 years, it's $145.37. So for your younger ones in here, let me put it to you a different way. Every dollar that you spend today is almost $20 you're not going to have in 30 years if it's invested like this. And in 50 years, that's $145 that's going to be unavailable to you because you spend it today. Does that make sense?
Because you bought a bottle of water instead of getting one out of the water spigot.
There you go. It's just that simple.
And also, I'll say that 30 years goes faster than you think it will.
It does. It does. And what I
For the young people.
what I was saying was, when those years 1 through 7, 1 through 10, and you're trying to watch that account grow, and it ain't going nowhere, and you listen to those other people talking, well, why you got money there? It ain't doing nothing. It's in those early years that it ain't. That's when you need to be buckling down and putting more in it. I believe Dad's got the award for the oldest one in the room. He'll tell you, in those early years, that's when you need to buckle down. Don't waste your money on frivolous things. I'm not telling you don't go live life. But the latest and greatest fads and fashions, perfect examples, flat screen TVs. We all had TVs that worked perfectly. But flat screen TVs come out, and everybody thought they had to have them. Yeah, they're nice. And if you've got the money to have them, that's great. But there's a cost associated with doing so. $1 spent today is almost $20 unavailable to you in 30 years. Now, 10% interest could be a little strong, but it's not unachievable. Flip over one page. This is where it gets fun. How many of you think you could find an extra $50 somewhere in your bank account every month? If you really dug hard, could you find an extra $50 a month? Is it doable?
And based that on weekly to get to the $50 a month, not
$12 a week.
12 hours a week.
One stop at McDonald's.
Get back to days. Get back to days. Dollars.
Oh, you're at $2 a day.
$2 something a day.
A bottle of water a day. 2 bottles of water a day.
That's right, just like you said, a bottle of water.
If you stop at Bojangles, $3 or $4 a day per morning, $3 a day times 300 days in a year, $900 a year that you bankrolled the Bojangles. All right, on our sheet here, we're going to invest $50 a month at 10% interest over 50 years. At 10 years, you got $10,200. 20 years, you got $37,000. At 30 years, you got $113,000. At 40 years, you got $316,000. And at 50 years, you got $866,000. The last two numbers is what I like. How much of your own money did you put into this? $30,000. And how much interest did you earn? $836,000 came
We're a
out.
long ways from 10% interest right now, Doug, that's the problem.
Yeah.
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
But $836,000 all but come out of thin air and fell in your bank account. Now I know that's 50 years.
But that's where you young people will be when you get where I'm at.
Now, how long is it gonna take? About a week? That's right.
All right, let's flip over one more page. Same setup, same 10% interest. Now we're going to do $100 a month. Year 10, you got 20,000. 20 years, you got 75. 30 years, you got 226. 40 years, you got 632. And at 50 years, you got 1.7 million in an account. You invested 60,000 of your own money, and you earn 1.6 in interest. Is $100 a month doable? Last fun, last page, kicks and giggles. We went from 100 to 500. 500 a month for a year, $6,000. 6,000 is about the limit that you can put in a Roth IRA retirement account. We'll talk about them a little bit later in another class. You scroll all the way through it, even at 30 years, you got 1.1. And at 40 years, you went to 3.1. But look at the jump from 40 to 50. You went from 3.1 to 8.6. It's compounding interest. If you understand it, you will earn it. If you don't, you will pay it. Now, if you don't understand it, it can work just as hard against you as it does for you. So we've got an example of a car payment here. $40,000 car. Your credit's kind of marginal or terrible. They're going to charge you 12%. You feel like you need a car, and you sure don't want to drive around one of those beater cars for $800, so you're gonna get something nice, because that's what your friends are driving. They'll even stretch the loan out for you for 84 months, 7 years. Anybody got a guess what the payment would be? $680, not too far off. Most phones, I have what's called a Power One app. All of the calculators, you can Google financial calculator, it'll do it for you. I've got one on my phone where you can do this stuff. If you don't know how to do it, ask somebody for help. I'll help you. But you need to know how to do this. For the simple reason, when you get ready to buy something, that you don't get snowed. Because all they're going to talk to you about is what's your payment, what can you pay, what can you afford. And you don't understand what they're doing to you. Ashley was real close on the payment. The payment will be $706. So, some simple math here. How much are you going to pay for this car?
$88,400.
Ooh, what?
I'm sorry, what did you say the amount was?
Payment $706.11. How much are you going to pay for the $40,000 car at this payment?
How many years?
84.
84 months.
What? 59,313. Now, where did he come up with that number from? Anybody?
Times on the payment, 84 months.
What?
Payment times 84 months.
Your simple payment times the number of payments you make. It's $59,313.24 to be exact. How much was the car to begin with? $40,000. No, we ain't got to depreciation. No, we just talking about how much you paid to ride around. You bought a $40,000 car, you're gonna pay $19,000 in interest. You pay 50% of the car value in interest alone. For somebody who buys a house, it gets even uglier.
That's like me calling the mortgage company, like, okay, how much extra do I have to pay this off in X number of years earlier?
We bought a new house, $150,000. We're gonna put $15,000 down, 10% down. You're gonna finance $135,000. Most people now are going to get a 30-year loan, and we'll even give you the benefit of the doubt that you got good credit at 5% interest. Anybody guess what your payment would be? No, we can get about cheaper than that. Anybody?
Okay, so this would be compounded yearly at 5%? Like when you pay 5% interest,
Well, house payment's monthly.
but it would be off of what you have left owing. So when you pay off a little bit, it decreases a little bit each time.
This is the amount you're financing, $135,000.
No, you don't pay them to the interest, against the principal to start with.
So, whenever you punch this in the calculator, what you're doing in the beginning, as Marshall said, you're paying mainly interest,
Right.
but some goes to principal.
How do you know what percent goes to principal? How do you know what percent goes to principal?
You'd have to look at the amortization table. It'll tell you based off of how much it goes to principal, how much goes to interest. But I can tell you for the first 5 to 7 years, it's almost all.
Yeah, that's how my student loan was.
Right, right. Oh. 724, 71. That's your payment. Okay? How many payments are we making? 30 years, which is
Right.
a lot. Yeah, that's a lot. How many payments are we making?
360.
360. All right. So what is the total amount paid for a $150,000 house?
Turns $60,899.
260, 895. How much did we finance?
135.
135. So how much do we pay in interest?
Just about the same amount you might.
$125,895.
Total?
I don't understand what this formula is.
125, 895. In interest. Dad told me a long time ago, when you borrow a nickel, you're gonna pay back a dime. Borrow a nickel, you pay back a dime. Almost double. If you understand it, you'll earn it. If you don't, you'll pay it. Most do not understand this principle. All they know is, what payment can I afford? Can I pay $600 a month? Can I pay $300 a month for a car? They don't understand the math behind it. They've never been taught it. Anybody get a credit card statement and actually read what interest rate you're going to be charged if you don't pay the minimum payment? Throw some numbers at me.
Like Derek's lowest one was like 17%.
17. What else? 12. Anybody else? 15 to 20. I've seen some 20s and 21s.
And like it tells you, if you pay the minimum payment, how long it would take you to really pay that thing.
20 or 30 years of payments on whatever. Mm-hmm. Why do you think the big ads on TV is Capital One? Why do you think they got big buildings? Why do you think banks have big buildings? Because they understand it. All right, we're getting closer to time. We're going to roll on through.
Now, aren't those normally a simple interest loan and not compound interest?
Auto is simple interest, isn't it?
If you don't pay the next month, they're going to charge you.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're paying every month.
If you're paying every month, there is no interest added.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you charge
Easier.
$1,000 to a Capital One card and they give you the bill and you pay it within the time frame, there is no interest added. But when that due date passes and they haven't received their minimum monthly payment, or if they've not received the payment in full, they're going to charge you the 12, 18, or 20%.
Okay.
And if they don't get it the next month, they're going to tack on to it again. And it's going to grow until they send some default notices. That comes next.
But it's not going to accrue compound if we're paying every month.
Oh, no, if you're paying every month, it will not.
It'll be
So a
simple
mortgage loan
interest.
is simple interest as long as.
Same with
you-
the car loan.
I know an auto loan is simple interest as long as you're making your payment, but a mortgage, is that simple interest split up over time? Or is a mortgage loan compounded?
No, it's compounded to get here.
It's amortized compound.
Mhm.
And you can.
It's compounded.
Build mortgage amortization.
I know, that's what I was trying to figure out.
So it is
You can
compound
look
interest
in
that
those
they're,
factors,
Yeah.
and it'll
Yeah.
tell you
So
exactly.
here's the thing. If you want to save you a boatload of money on a house or a car, you make 13 payments a year. It's very, very simple. You take your payment, you divide it by 12, and you add whatever that amount is to what you're paying now, and that goes directly to principal. This number will be greatly reduced. You're still paying back the 135. You owe that. So to answer your question, yes, it's compounded monthly, because when you hit that principal and you add to it, they have to refigure how much you owe. But I think you're overthinking
No,
it.
I'm like nerding out over here, see what I mean? I'm just trying to figure out like the formula for that because
Oh, no.
you can't calculate it because you can't factor in what you paid, what you now have left in your principal. Like
I understand, yeah.
if you just use the compound interest formula for that, it would be like $600,000.
Yeah.
It would be way more because you have to have the factor that
You're
like.
paying a few dollars on the.
Yeah, like you have to be able to adjust your payment from
Right.
where your principal is now
Right.
935,000.
Yeah, you've got to have a spreadsheet, because it's a
Okay.
new formula every month.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, I'm with you.
Yeah, it's a very complex formula to do that. All right, moving on. Our priority number one is money management. I've said it before. You cannot invest it if you can't save it. You can't save it if you cannot take control of your money. And this is my one little quote of my claim to fame. Money management is the foundation upon which wealth is built. You can't be wealthy. There's a difference in being wealthy and rich. You can't be wealthy if you can't manage your money. All right. Assets versus liabilities. Warren Buffett, famous stock investor out of Omaha, Nebraska. You may have heard of him. He's got sayings after sayings that apply to our daily lives. If you buy things you don't need, you will soon sell things that you do need. Does that make sense? Does that apply? All right, fill in the blank. Assets are items that produce blank or blank.
Money or value.
Money and value. I had income or profit. Money and value works for me. Liabilities are items that blank money out of your cash bucket. Take. Drain. As an investor, you want to buy as many assets and as few liabilities as possible. Now, what are some things that are liabilities?
Car.
Car?
Camper, boat, four-wheeler, anything.
anything fun.
Big baby.
So,
Buns.
car,
Gonna get it, be
guns. I'm gonna put that as debatable because there is a collector side to that. All right, what
Yeah,
else?
well,
House. All right.
it can be both.
Now, good point. If you talk to your CPA or a CPA, they're gonna say a house is an asset. If that house earns you money some way, then it's an asset. If it doesn't, it is a liability. What else? There's a bunch of them.
Food.
Food, okay.
My weekend is a liability. You know, I'm $50. That was not $50 I need to save this month.
Mm-hmm.
Clothes, that you put on.
Clothes.
After the first 20 pair of shoes, at least shoes.
Oh, Lord, you hitting on the youngins' door now.
After the first 20 pair, I called it.
I'm with you. What else? Phone.
Oh,
That's good.
yeah.
Kids.
They're liable.
Tongue in cheek, but they cost. What else?
Cable. Cable.
Cable.
Pets. Pets.
Pets. That's a big one.
So pretty much any luxury in life is a liability.
Just about.
Trips,
Vacation.
vacations.
Anything else?
Did you hear what she said?
Nope.
She said anniversary parties.
Yep. Parties.
But it was so fun.
It was fun.
Stay down with each
It
other.
was worth it. Can't take it with you when you go.
That's right.
Anything else? Girlfriend.
Ow.
I'm not gonna write that one down. That'll come back to bite you. All right. So, anything that you spend money on that doesn't have a potential to return money to you. Now you're gonna have them in life. You're not gonna live life without some of these. But start considering when you pay for it. Is it a need or is it a want? Could I do without? You know, I've read books about people who lived a very, very basic, simple life, and they had that $8 million in the bank when they retired. If you want to do that, that is your call. Now, on the flip side of that, we have assets. What are they?
Land.
Land? Raw land or land with something?
Land with something would be a little bit better, you could like off trees and do something, but if you don't do that, you got.
You named about 5 right there in a row. So let's start with raw land.
Yeah, yeah.
We just say land. All right, and you said timber.
Yeah.
All right. What else?
House.
House.
That's paid for.
Rental property.
You said rental property.
House is
Okay.
making money.
There you go, it was better.
Rental
Rental house, yeah.
house.
Cattle.
Yeah.
Cattle.
Cattle.
That's 4.
Cattle.
Produce.
Produce.
Gold and silver.
Can't work both ways.
It's a liability and an asset.
I heard gold, silver, any type of precious metals,
Guns,
guns, absolutely.
Ain't good, yeah, guns good both ways.
I've heard NRA say that gun collectors can earn about 10%. What else?
Stocks, I mean.
Stocks.
If you invest wisely in stocks.
That could be money.
Next.
retirement funds or whatever, like investing money in an account that's gonna accrue interest, I don't even know what you call that, but.
401k.
401k.
So those are account types, but what does that money go into?
Like mutual funds?
Mutual funds, okay? What else?
I mean, you say cash, but that's gold and silver, I guess.
Gold and silver, you could do what's called Forex, which is foreign exchange between Mexican money, Honduran money, that type of thing.
If the dollar don't just crash today.
Correct.
Then gold and silver should benefit.
Anything else? Anything else that you could put money into and expect a return out of?
Savings.
Business.
CD.
Businesses. Small businesses, big businesses. So Travis, if you bought a small business, you would expect a return, correct? So instead of buying the stock, you just bought the whole business. Okay, I like it. What else? There's one that most people don't know about. It's kind of hidden. It's called notes. We talk about a mortgage note. Mortgage is nothing more than an IOU, correct? When you write a check at Walmart, you're promising to pay Walmart whatever that amount was. That's an IOU. That check in itself is an asset. Your mortgage note that you're paying to the bank is actually an asset. And have you ever had something that you were paying on, that you got a letter that says, please send your payment to here now instead of where you were sending it? Your note was bought or sold. There's a whole class of people who do nothing but invest in those. 2008, when everybody was going into foreclosure, people were buying distressed mortgage notes left and right. The investment potential is unlimited. We could talk about all things financial the rest of the night. We've come back to the end of our time. Two things I want you to remember just from this class. The job for most people is just over broke. You're 2 paychecks away from being broke. That's most people. That's not everybody, but that's most. Your compounded interest can work for you, or it can work against you. Questions, comments?
Comment, Trey, I wish I had thought of bringing it, but I didn't. Me and Kelvin and Ellen went to the farm show Friday. I just walked them through, I picked up a little pamphlet that was on the tractor. I showed it to her, she didn't believe me. I said, look at it. And then I explained to her why. It had the price of the tractor paying cash. And it had the price of the tractor financing. You paid more for the tractor if you paid cash for it than you did if you financed it.
Correct.
And she said, that can't be right. I said, that's right. I said, because they're getting interest
Right.
off all that money if you finance it, whereas if you pay cash, they're not.
Right.
So and you see that on TV a lot too, when in dealerships and cars, they'll say, if you listen to what they say, they may tell you you can get this vehicle for $25,000 if you finance it. They don't say that real loud, or if you finance it with GMAC or Ford Motor Company or whatever.
Right.
But if you don't finance it through them, then you're probably gonna pay more for it. But they don't tell you that, all that, but that's the reason of it right there.
That's exactly right. Most companies who sell large ticket items, tractors, cars, whatever, they have a financial arm to their business where they figured out, just like Marshall said, they make more money off of the interest that we showed you than they do selling the actual car.
And a lot of times they'll sell the note, and that's how they make the spread between that cash price and the interest price.
They can sell it. If they get in a bind and they need their money, they can sell the note. Or if they finance it and the farmer has a struggling year and don't pay it, they'll go back, sell it again,
Yeah.
do the whole process over again.
They're also banking on you missing a few payments and
Right.
paying them a little bit more.
Because in the
interest.
fine print, if you miss a payment, there's
Yeah.
someone said, somewhere it says your interest rate of 6 or 8% jumps to 15, 18, or 20%.
Yeah.
And that's what gets a lot of farmers is, you know, they found out, hey, if I ain't made enough money this year, or in my opinion, being careless with what I have made, but anyway, that's another subject. And I can't make this payment, all I got to do is go talk to the banker and they'll let me pay the interest for this year and everything's good till next year.
Right.
But you still got that $200,000 principal on this same tractor,
Right.
or whatever
Right.
it is.
When we went to go try to buy a car, I was trying to get 0% interest. They told me I couldn't, and then they told me all of a sudden I could. But if I would take the 1.5% interest rate or whatever they could offer me, they would sell me the car for a lesser amount. So I lowered my principal if I was willing to take an interest rate,
Correct.
because they were running the hopes of me missing a payment or whatever in the long run that's going to in return make them money.
They kept the key.
And they kept it. Because I did not know.
They were
That
messing
you
up
were,
back here.
that you were about
They
to
did not
get.
know. They told me to calm down. I'm kind of like that.
I have some scrap paper up here. If you would take and write down or jot down something that you would like to learn about, a question that you got answered, I will take them and work on them between now and the next class or the second class. The one thing I say about that, I can't tell you specifically what to invest in or what to sell or anything like that, but if you've got a general question, I'll be glad to try to help you. But I can't cross the line of being your financial advisor. Because if you have this in a 401k or you have this in a retirement and it's not working for you, I can't tell you what to buy or what to sell. I can show you the risk of it, or I can show you the upsides and the downsides of it, but I can't tell you this is what you need to do. So. Any other questions or comments?
When is the next class, do you know yet?
Next Tuesday night. I'm gonna try to do it every Tuesday night, 7 o'clock, 3 more times.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay? Thank y'all for coming.